It's your boy, Amreezy, and I'm back with another Road to Sorare Boss episode where we follow my journey in the wonderful world of Sorare. And it's an exciting week this week. A new Sorare season begins this weekend. New structure, no more of the old capped leagues, new structures, Premier League's back this weekend. I'm excited. This is an exciting one, guys. I love Sorare. If you're new around here, we follow my journey in Sorare. If you could like and subscribe to the video, it'd be a massive help for me. Really helps me keep going. If you could leave any advice, any tips, any encouragement in the comments, also helps massively. We're going to talk Sorare, guys. It's the first week of a new season. Just as a football fan, you know, I'm a English fan, football fan. Premier League's my #1 league, so Premier League is back. That's exciting. But it's the first time I'm going to be able to play my West Ham stack, my Chelsea stack. All these cards that I've been buying in the summer finally are coming in useful. So let's start off this week. We've got to deal with last week first. Before we do this week, let's deal with last week. So let's start off with looking at how I did last week in what was the last weekend of the old Sorare season. Right then, this is how I did last weekend in what was August 9 to 13. There is a midweek set of fixtures right now, but in the words of Jose Mourinho, I prefer not to speak. So nothing happened midweek. Last weekend, we did have this special kit jersey signed special competition where you pick 2 players with low L15s, 2 with high, and can't have players from more than 2 clubs. So that was interesting, fun to enter. Not much to report there. I knew this week would be not a great week for me because I only had, I think, 2 playing goalkeepers across the fixtures this week. So, yeah, surprisingly, the Santos goalkeeper was my highest scoring player from this week. If you'd have told me that last week, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have assumed that would have been the lowest score out of all of them. So something's wrong with the universe when my Santos player is getting the best score in the team. But Santos are continuing their defensive solidity. The goalkeeper's making a lot of saves. So hopefully they can continue this form into the Liga MX now. When the League's Cup's done, we go back to Liga MX where I know I have a better understanding of the Mexican League. I haven't liked this League's Cup thing because I don't know which MLS. My MLS knowledge is not as good as my Liga MX knowledge. So I've not known what a good fixture is. There's been a lot of games. They're resting teams. They're resting players in some games and not in other games. And yeah, so Santos did well in terms of their 1-1 draw. It was another good week for the goalkeeper, so hoping he continues that into Liga MX. Piovi, usually a better score than that. 68's an okay score for most people. For Piovi, that's not a best score. I want to see that dark green Piovi, so not the best score from him, despite keeping a clean sheet. He didn't have the best game. The Atlas boys. Last week I was saying I think America might be a bit tired for this game because they've had so many fixtures. They've been playing European teams in preseason games and playing their best players. So I thought maybe America would be tired. Unfortunately, the quality prevailed. They beat Atlas 2-1. So not the best score. Both of them didn't do well. Aguirre and Marquez. I thought maybe they could do something. They didn't. But Atlas have had a good start to the season. When they've got easier fixtures in the Liga MX resumes, they're still going to be good cards for me this season. And Ziyech, Galatasaray's first game of the season, they did win 2-1, but Ziyech wasn't involved in any of the games. He did play most of the game. I think he came off at like 88 or something like that minutes. So, you know, he didn't do anything this week, but hopefully he can do something next week. I still think he's going to be a key part of Galatasaray's team this year. Galatasaray are going to challenge for the season once again. They won the league by a long way last year. So Ziyech in his second season at Galatasaray should still be a good card this season. Didn't do anything this week, though. I then put out an under-23 lineup where I knew the goalkeeper wasn't going to play, even though he had a game, the Olympics final. I knew that he's not been the #1 goalkeeper in the Olympics for France. He's only played 1 game, which was the last group game. So I knew he wasn't going to play, but I don't have any other under-23 goalkeepers. So I can only this season really play 1 under-23 lineup. But the under-23 lineup is not going to be my priority this year. So I'm only really going to put teams out here when these cards, I kind of can't find a place for them in Champion or Contender or Challenger. Then I'll be like, okay, I could use them in the under-23 lineup unless all 5 of them have really good fixtures. And then I might prioritize the under-23 lineup that week. So I'm undecided how I'm going to play the under-23 lineup this season, sorry. But I think I'm going to have enough cards to play and think about. So Christian Ravic is a good example of that. He's a Cercle Bruges player, was injured most of last season. He started this season, both games, so 54 points from him wasn't the best score this week, but it's encouraging to see him start games. He's got a lot of promise, hoping he kind of builds up a bit of confidence this season and hopefully doesn't get injured, and he could be a real good player for me. The same with Stukas at Genk. These two cards, both, I could play them in Challenger some weeks, but when there's like not enough, like this week when I didn't have a good Challenger lineup, the Challenger goalkeeper wasn't playing, so they fit nicely in the under-23 lineup. So they're going to be useful cards for me this season, as is Jordan Carrillo, because he's Santos' most creative midfielder. When Santos have a good game, he'll most likely be in the contender division. When Santos have a kind of 50-50 game that I don't know how it's going to go, and I don't have any other midfielders that I think could be good that week, he's a great pick for the under-23 lineup. Didn't do that great this week, 55 from him. And then Kamil Nejli didn't play, didn't start, and I wasn't surprised because that's been the story of his time since I've had his card. He's not played games, or he's come off the bench and done well like these weeks. Always been injured a lot last season, so I'm really hoping this season he gets his fitness back up, doesn't get injured, and establishes himself in the first team. It might take a few weeks though. I'm just checking. This week he did start. This week he started. So he has, towards the end of last season, he was starting games and scoring goals. This season he started the first game, but last week he didn't start. Last week he only got 20 minutes. So I'm hoping that that was a one-off and he'll go back to being in the starting lineup, because he started these 3 games, did well in 2 of them, didn't start the last game, but I'm just hoping it's the beginning of the season. They don't want to rush him. They're kind of easing him in. But if he gets himself in that starting lineup, could be a great card this season. I am struggling with under-23 strikers, mainly because either if they're good, I want to play them in the other leagues like Champion or Challenger. Like Cade Cowell, for example, in Contender. He was under 23 striker for me. Still could be an under 23 striker for me. But because he's been doing so well for Chivas, if I've got a really good lineup in my Contender division and I just need a striker to go with them, Cade Cowell's probably going to be there. So under 23 lineup's a bit of a funny one. I have signed a new striker for the under 23 lineup who could possibly help with this. I'll show you him in a bit. And then it was the last ever Cap 270, Cap 240, and Cap 220. Shed a tear. However, we do have Cap 250 now and again coming back, it seems. That's going to be back this weekend. So fear not. Keep your capped cards. If you think a few of them are still good, you can keep some of your capped cards, like I'll be keeping, because they could be used in special competitions now and again. My Cap 270, I have some bad news. My striker Koita, who I only just signed like 2 weeks ago, he looks like he's leaving. He's going to the Turkish second division, it seems, which isn't covered in the Sorare League. So I've already sold him. He's already gone, which is why I avoided this lineup, because I wanted to sell him as quickly as I could so that before people realized he was leaving, I wanted to sell him. So I managed to sell him, and I think I traded him for a under 23 striker, which I'll show you later. So he didn't do well. The goalkeeper, though, at Dusseldorf, Kastenmeier, he seems like a really good card. 2 clean sheets out of 2 games for Dusseldorf. Another good score from him. They don't have a game, annoyingly, this week. They do, but it's a cup game, which isn't covered in Sorare. So he's exciting for me. He's going to be my best contender goalkeeper this year. Really hoping for a big, solid season from Dusseldorf. If they keep this form up, he's going to be an amazing contender goalkeeper. And then my 2 boys from Juarez lost 3-2. Again, it's the League's Cup. I don't understand. When they go back to Liga MX, I'm going to be really confident about these 2 cards because they've started the season well. Juarez are a great team this season. They were building last season to this start of the season. So I'm really hoping they do. And if they do well, Torres and Villapando are 2 great scoring cards. Juarez, and I think they're both going under the radar. Juarez as a team have gone a little bit under the radar, but they've started the season well. Villapando especially is a great scoring card. So they didn't have the best result in the League's Cup, but I'm looking forward to having them when Liga MX resumes. And Thiago Silva didn't play, didn't expect that, so sad there. So that team let me down. Once Thiago Silva didn't play and Koita's transfer happened, I was like, get him out. This team voided. 240, not the great score. With both of these teams, they were gambled because I knew I had DMP goalkeepers. So all four were gamble cards. But within the gamble cards, I can kind of think like Santiago Jimenez is staying for now. He's not leaving, even though there's lots of rumors Premier League clubs want him. But as of yet, he's still at Feyenoord. So if he stays, it seems like they're going to play him. They played him this week. He scored. So if he stays, I kind of want him to stay now because I don't have a lot of challenger strikers. And he's also an under-23 striker. So we know that's a problem position for me. So if he stays at Feyenoord, I think he'll do really well. If he moves, I just have to hope he moves to a team where he's playing every week and he's doing really well. So let's see what happens with him. But could be an exciting card this year if he stays. Santos defender Bruno Amioni. Let's see. Let's see. Alan Minder seems like he's not yet ready for the first team. He's being eased back because he was playing in Copa America. Didn't have any preseason with Cercle Bruges, so they're easing him back. I put him in this lineup as a gamble, like maybe this is the week he starts. It wasn't the week he starts, maybe next week or the week after. And then Fulgencio is continuing his good form. Atlas lost 2-1, but Fulgencio, I was very critical of him last year, but this year he started off better. An assist, even though they lost. So I've got a couple of Atlas cards. I've got a striker and two midfielders. So if Atlas get their form together, he could be a good card for me this season. And then 220, Josh Cullen is one of my favourite cards because of how well he did for Burnley last year in the Premier League. A tricky fixture this week against Luton, but they won 4-1 Burnley, which was really encouraging for me. He didn't have the best game. I think he got a yellow card, maybe made an error, gave possession away 4 times. So he didn't have the best game, but I'm hoping that's a one-off. And if Burnley are going to have a good season, he should be a good card to have in their midfield. Jan-Nicolas Best there, a surprise defeat. Benfica lost 2-0. All I can put that down to, it was the first game of the season. They were away from home, maybe not quite fresh, maybe not quite gelled yet as a team. But even though they lost 2-0, he got 75 points for me, which is good. So very optimistic about him because he was so good last year for Heidenheim. Hoping his Benfica move goes well. If it does, optimistic about this card. Castro Montes was a great card for me last year. He's basically, when Union SG have a good fixture, he's really good. When they have a bad fixture, it's iffy. He sometimes does really well and sometimes 63. So it was a tricky game, Westerlo away. But 63 points, not bad. That's still going to be a good card for me this year. And Ramiro Sordo, not a best score, but what I'm encouraged at is that he played. I think it was 89 minutes he got. So that's 3 games in a row where he started. And I think that's what he needs at Santos. He needs to keep starting games. That's the only way he's going to build form. So maybe when Liga MX resumes, Sordo can keep this form of starts going against easier teams. Let's see how that goes. So that's how I did last week. The rest was just training lineups, building XP. Let's have a quick look at the new cards that I bought since last week. So last week, the exciting news was Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer was my card that I bought last year that I was very excited about. Since then, I bought these 5 cards. Armindo Sabe is the striker that I said I bought for my under-23 league or for champion. Basically, he was in the German second division last year. Bayern Munich have signed him in the summer. Then they've loaned him out to Mainz for 2 years, which is rare. You don't usually see a loan for 2 years. That suggests to me Bayern Munich see something in this guy. And in 2 years' time, when Harry Kane's getting older and they possibly want someone to replace him, maybe they're preparing that replacement. So he's a Bayern Munich player on loan at Mainz for 2 years. So he's going to be a champion striker for me or an under-23 striker for me. I kind of bought him for both. We don't know yet how he's going to do. They've not played a game yet. We can judge him from his data in the second division where he had some good scores. Some really good scores in Bundesliga 2, but obviously Bundesliga is going to be a step up from him. But if Bayern Munich sees something in him, I thought it was worth the investment for me as well. So I'm trusting Bayern Munich's scouting team on this one. I hope he has a really good season at Mainz. I hope I can play him in the Under-23 League or the Champion League. And we'll see how he does. Billy Gilmore was the next one I bought. Billy Gilmore I bought because he's a player that I love. I've loved him ever since he was at Chelsea. I really love how he plays football. He's got an amazing vision. He's got a great pass on him. He's a really creative player. I don't know if he's suited for the Premier League. I think he's a little bit, maybe doesn't have the physicality. Maybe doesn't have the kind of versatility. He's a bit of a luxury player in the Premier League, but the rumors are he's going to go to Napoli. All the rumors are suggesting he's going to go to Napoli. Napoli have been negotiating with Brighton for the last couple of weeks about a transfer fee. It seems like they're just debating the fee now. But if Billy Gilmour goes, as I think he will go to Napoli, with Conte, in a league that I think will suit him better, I think Billy Gilmour could have a great time at Napoli. And if he does, that's a really good champion midfielder for me. Joe Linton I brought because I do have a bit of a mini Newcastle stack. I'm close to getting my 2% on my Newcastle stack. I've got Pope, Shaw, Callum Wilson, Longstaff, and I think Anderson. So Joe Linton is now my 6th player from that Newcastle collection. And I also bought him because he was injured all of last season. All of last season he was injured. But before he was injured, Eddie Howe seemed to really like him as a kind of box-to-box midfielder. And he was getting some good scores. These are pretty good scores. So I think he's still fairly young. He's still got the peak of his career ahead of him. If he came back into the team at the end of last season, I think he's been playing preseason, starting at preseason games. I'm excited about Joe Linton. He might not be in my starting teams, but when Newcastle have a good fixture, that could be a good card. So I brought Joe Linton in because I got him at a good price, and I think he could have a good season for Newcastle. Maxwell Cornet was someone that I bought because, 60p, nice cheap price. I bought him because he helps with my West Ham collection, which is doing this, expanding. And I'm not going to complete that West Ham collection, but I do want to fill out any players that I think are cheap and can help with my collection scores, but also could score well. So Cornet is one of those players who's rumored to be leaving West Ham because they've got a million wingers now. They've signed Somerville from West Ham. They've signed Somerville from Leeds, sorry. They've got Bowen, they've got Kudos, they've got Paquetá. So Cornet is not going to be first team for West Ham. The rumours are Celtic were interested in him. Leeds are interested in replacing Somerville with him. Burnley might be interested in re-signing him. Southampton maybe. So there's a lot of teams that could sign him before the transfer deadline closes. I'm really hoping someone signs him from West Ham. He does well because West Ham bought him for a lot of money back in the day. They bought him only a few years ago for quite big money for West Ham. So I'm hoping that there's a player there. He's still fairly young. Hoping he gets a move and can start fresh somewhere and kind of show that promise he once had. So I bought him, and then Francisco Calvo is the Juarez defender who was recommended to me in the chat, in the comments on last week's video. Thank you for that recommendation. I looked into it, a really good card. I got him for a little bit cheaper than his kind of going price because he had a really bad game last week. He got a score of 4 because he had an error that led to a goal. And he also gave possession away 13 times. So they had a really bad game. My other Juarez players did bad as well. So I'm hoping that bad score is actually good for me because I was able to buy him for a little bit cheaper than he's been selling for lately. And then look at these scores. When he's back in Liga MX, these are the scores that he's able to deliver. 88, 91, 85, 76. So once he's back in Liga MX, I'm hoping that, look, he's so consistent with his scores. And I've got the Juarez midfielder. I've got a Juarez striker. Now I've got a Juarez defender. I've got a nice little mini Juarez stack that I can put in the contender division. So I'm excited about him, matching him with Torres and Villapando. So those are the 5 cards that I bought. Summer spending's kind of almost done now. Season starts this weekend. Let's look at my first lineups for the first week of the new Sorare season. Okay, here we go. Game week 1, new season. These are my first lineups of a new season. I'm very excited. Let's start with the Premier League. That's the big one. That's the headline league. That's my favorite league. So it's a bit of a strange week for me because Chelsea are playing Manchester City. So I'm not really putting any Chelsea cards in my lineup, seriously expecting anything, because they're playing Manchester City. And also, there's still so many questions about the Chelsea team, like who's going to play, what the formation's going to be, which attackers, especially in attack, which centre-backs are going to play. Reece James is suspended for the first game of the season and maybe has a little injury again. So, it seems like Cole Palmer's pretty much the only guaranteed name you can name. And then everyone else is like, will they play? Where will they play? Will Nkunku play on the wing? Will Nkunku play up front? So with Chelsea having a hard game, it's not the best week for me, but then in a way, I'm getting it out of the way. We're getting Chelsea, Man City out of the way the very first game. And also West Ham. So my two big Premier League teams, Chelsea and West Ham, both have tricky games. West Ham are playing Aston Villa, did amazing last season. And Chelsea playing Manchester City. So with that in mind, I don't think my lineups are going to be the strongest this first week, but they should be. And also, I think it's good for Chelsea to play Man City in Sorare reasons for first week, so I can kind of see what the formation is, who's going to be the best scoring players within this formation. And also, if there's any standout players, like say someone like Nkunku, Madueke, Enzo Fernandez, say one of them looks really crucial in that formation and really looks good, scores well in that Man City game, that then gives me a lot more confidence for game week 2 and the remaining Chelsea fixtures. So I think Chelsea have Manchester City and then a good run of fixtures. So it's not so bad for me to have the Man City game first. But let's start off with the Premier League lineups I'm going to put out. So my strongest lineup is going to be the West Ham lineup this week. With Chelsea playing Man City, West Ham are at home against Aston Villa. So I think because West Ham are at home and Villa, it'll be a tricky game. But West Ham should also, I think, have a lot of momentum. There's a lot of excitement. I think the stadium's going to be buzzing. I think the feel-good factor at West Ham for that first game should be there. They've got exciting signings: Fulkrug, Wan-Bissaka, Kilman, Todibo. These are exciting signings West Ham have made. They've kept Kudus, they've kept their Bowen, they've kept their best players. So with that in mind, Areola in goal, Kilman in defence, Kudus captain in midfield, Bowen up front. Those four, if West Ham do well, should all do well. Goalkeeper, defender, Kudus and Bowen, I expect to play every game. The one midfield position that I'm uncertain about is centre midfield. So I've got in my Sorare gallery Souček, James Ward-Prowse, and Edson Alvarez. Edson Alvarez is injured, and they've also signed another midfielder, West Ham, Guido, who I think has worked with the manager before, so he should be in the first team. So I think it's going to be Guido, and then they're going to be battling Edson Alvarez, Souček, and Ward-Prowse. All three of them are going to be battling maybe for one spot. So I don't definitely know which one of my cards is going to be the best. I am keeping my eye on Guido in the transfer market. Maybe I bring him in as a kind of to give me a bit of depth at West Ham. But I think with Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Edson Alvarez, once I can work out who the main guy is alongside Guido, I just play that guy, and then I've got two more backups, so I might not need Guido. What I'm gonna do is see how Guido scores, because he might just be one of those midfielders in Sorare that doesn't score well, so I don't actually want him, and I actually want, say, Ward-Prowse, if that's the guy he picks, or Souček. So Souček's played the last, I think, 2 preseason games. He started the last 2 preseason games, and with Edson Alvarez injured, or kind of semi-injured. He got injured in Copa America, so he's not fully certain to play this game. I think Souček is the guy that plays this game, not necessarily all season, but I think Souček starts the first game. He's a bit more defensively solid than Ward-Prowse, which I think the manager might want, especially because West Ham have so much attacking threat now. They have so many attacking players in that kind of front four. I think the 2 holding midfielders might need to be a bit more defensive, which isn't going to be good for Ward-Prowse. I think he could be a bit of a luxury player. So that's the team I'm going to go for West Ham. I hope they have a really good game. I hope they beat Aston Villa. If they do, this team could do really well. Then the second team, I think most weeks I'm going to have Chelsea and West Ham and then a third mixed team. But with Chelsea playing Man City this week, I don't feel confident putting out 5 Chelsea cards against Manchester City. So what I'm going to do is play one mixed team and not play a third team. I'll play those cards everywhere else. So I'm going to do the mixed team. I'm going to put Nick Pope in goal. I'm very excited about Nick Pope. I think, he had a lot of injuries last season. He should be back in the first team this year. He's basically going to be my goalkeeper because I don't have a Chelsea goalkeeper because I don't know who the Chelsea goalkeeper is going to be. So Nick Pope's going to be my goalkeeper, I think, that I put alongside my Chelsea cards. Then I've got Aaron Ramsdale and the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, Sam Johnstone. Both of those goalkeepers are still rumoured to be going out. So I think there's a lot of cards I have, like a lot of Chelsea cards that are rumoured to be leaving, like Gallagher, Chalobah. I've got a lot of Chelsea cards, Madueke maybe. I've got a lot of Chelsea cards that could move and be great cards for me anywhere else. And I've got 2 Premier League goalkeepers that could still move to another Premier League team. There's rumours Sam Johnstone will leave There's rumors Ramsdale will leave, so I really need the transfer window to close and all of my cards to move. So for the time being, I've only got 2 playing Premier League goalkeepers. So Nick Pope, Daniel Munoz, really attacking defender for Crystal Palace. Brentford away, I think, could be a good game for Crystal Palace. Cole Palmer is the one Chelsea player I'm going to pick, because even in a hard game, you'd back Cole Palmer to do well. I'm going to captain him, because even if Man City don't necessarily have the tightest defense, against the bigger teams, they rarely keep clean sheets. So I'm hoping that even if Chelsea lose, maybe Cole Palmer is involved in 1 or 2 goals. Hopefully, as a Chelsea fan, obviously I'm hoping that. And it's the first game of the season. I've got a Cole Palmer card. I'm a Chelsea fan. I just want to have Cole Palmer and I want to captain him so I can really back him. So I'm going to do that. And then Dominic Solanke. So the last week was a really good week for me in terms of transfers, because I have Dominic Solanke and I have Pedro Neto. Dominic Solanke moved to Tottenham, where I think he's going to do really well. And Pedro Neto moved to Chelsea. So if he gets in the Chelsea first team, which I imagine he will, I don't think they're going to spend that much money on a player that really fits Enzo Maresca's tactics. I think Neto will be a starting winger on the left. It should be Neto, Nkunku, Palmer behind a striker, or Nkunku as the striker and maybe Madueke on the wing. So I think Neto was perfect for me. I bought him ages ago when he was injured at Wolves, because I was like, I really like Neto. I like how he plays. When he's back from injury, he's going to do really well for Wolves. As it turns out, he's moved to Chelsea, which really suits my gallery. So I have Neto and Solanke, who got big moves last week. So Solanke's going to be starting this week for me up front. Leicester should be a good game for Spurs. And then Dwight McNeil is the other striker who I have, who I'm going to be playing. They've got Brighton at home. So, I think the Brighton, they've got a new manager, a few new faces. I think Brighton maybe will take a bit of time to settle. I think Brighton will have a good season this year, but I think Everton will as well. And Dwight McNeil is kind of the creative guy in that team. They've got a new striker, Everton. So if he can be feeding them with set pieces, if he can be crosses balls from the wing, I think Dwight McNeil could have a good season this year and a good game this week. So that's going to be my mixed Premier Leagues lineup this week. Then I'm going to be putting out a challenger team, which is going to be Bilal Bayazit in Turkey. I don't think he played last week, so I think this might be his first game of the season. I've then got Castro Montes at Union SG. They've got a home game. They're a good team in the league. It's not going to be a Westerlo away, so this should be a better game this week. I'm going to captain Jan-Niklas Beste. With this lineup, I'm a little uncertain about who to captain, because I'm tempted to captain Castro Montes. I'm also tempted to captain Thiago Silva, who didn't play last week. And I'm tempted to captain Santiago Jimenez, who, if he doesn't leave Feyenoord, should be playing again. And they're a good team. He's the main guy up front. So I think I'm going to go in Beste, because he had a good score last week. They're at home now, Benfica. Hopefully they bounce back from that defeat last week. And if they do, Beste should be involved. Thiago Silva, hoping for another clean sheet from him. And Santiago Jimenez, a little bit of a gamble, because if he gets a transfer this weekend, he's not going to play at the weekend. But at time of recording, there's no transfer news yet. He looks like he might have one more game for them before maybe a transfer next week. Or maybe he stays for them. So I'm kind of hoping he stays now. So I've got a great challenger striker this season. So that's going to be my challenger lineup. My contender lineup, there's a lot of Liga MX teams not playing this week. And also my Dusseldorf goalkeeper, there's no Bundesliga 2 fixture this week. They're playing the Pokal Cup in Germany, which isn't covered on Sorare. So I've only got one goalkeeper covered in the contender league, because my Necaxa goalkeeper doesn't have a fixture. And my German goalkeeper doesn't have a fixture covered by Sorare. So I can only put one serious team in contender out, which is going to be a mixed team. Acevedo in goal. Liga MX is back. Tijuana aren't the best team in Liga MX, and I've not got much choice. I have to play him. So I'm going to hope Santos continue this kind of good defensive form they've had in the last 2 games. And I'm going to play the Santos goalkeeper and the Santos defender that I was telling you about earlier, Amione. So I'm going to be playing 2 Santos defenders, which I'm not fully confident about because it's away as well. But I've not really got much choice. So they're going to have to play. Then I'm going to be playing the 2 boys in the Spanish second division that got their first game of the season. Sancris and Sanchez. I've got them both, a little mini stack here from Burgos. So, you know, they're a good team in the league. They didn't get promoted last year, which kind of suits me because it means they've got a good team for that division. They didn't get promoted last year. They've managed to keep a lot of the team. So they should be another good team in the second division in Spain this year. So with that in mind, first game of the season, they're at home. I'm going to captain the striker, play the midfield as well. And then the third player I'm going to pick is... There's not that many options for me in the Contender League this week, with a lot of teams not having games because they're traveling back from the Leagues Cup, or they have a Leagues Cup fixture and they don't have a Liga MX fixture. So there's a reduced Liga MX fixture schedule this week. So Carrillo is going to be playing, the most creative Santos midfielder. So I'm really hoping with 3 Santos players, Santos have a good game, which doesn't fill me with confidence. But these 2 boys fill me with a little bit more confidence. Then there's a special capped league. There's a special capped competition this league, which, as I mentioned earlier, is optimistic for the future because I don't know how often this is going to happen, but it does mean if you have cards that don't score that well, but they score okay, keep them in your gallery because they can be squad depth and they can also be in these special capped competitions. So it's going to be a cap 250, it seems. So I'm going to put 1 serious lineup because I've got 1 playing goalkeeper. And then these 2 goalkeepers are not playing. Now, this playing goalkeeper is Fructal, my new signing, who's a Serie A goalkeeper. Another Bayern Munich wonder kid, who Bayern Munich have a buyback clause on. So if he does well, it's another player Bayern Munich are keeping tabs on, which is why I bought him. Again, I'm kind of trusting the Bayern Munich scouting system here. But I could play him either in this team or I could play him in the champion team. I did play around with a champion lineup this week. Where is champion? But in fact, I didn't make a champion lineup this week because I just didn't have enough good teams to go around him. I had I didn't have many other Premier League cards that were that good. I didn't have enough. All of the champion leagues aren't back yet. We don't still have the rest of the leagues coming back. Premier League's back, but all of the European leagues aren't back yet. So I couldn't put a good lineup that I felt confident about in the champion lineup. But I did feel a bit more confident putting out 1 strong team in the Cap 250 lineup. So I'm going to be putting Fructal in goal, Ravic in defense. They've got an away fixture. So these 4 players, you know, they're not quite strong enough to go in, say, the Premier League or the Challenger, but they've got okay fixtures and they're good cards. So Ravic, even though he's away, that's why he's in this lineup, hoping he has a good game. Josh Cullen, Burnley have got an easier fixture this week, hoping he has a better score. If he does, they're at home. I'm going to give him the captaincy band. I know what he's capable of from last season. Hoping he has a good game this week. Wasn't a good score last week, but I'm hoping that's a one-off. If he has a good week at home, I think to Cardiff, captain. Come on, Josh Cullen. Come on. Then I'm going to be playing Ziyech again. I'm not confident about him because it's an away fixture. He didn't have a good game last week, but it was the first week of the season, so you can't really judge too much on the first week of the season. Ziyech and Cullen both had bad games last week, but they could easily bounce back this week. They're both high score. They both have a ceiling to score well, so I'm putting them both in. And they also both have low L15 scores, which fits the Cap 250 nicely. And then the kind of wild card pick up front is Joe Linton. Even though he's not actually going to be playing up front, he's a forward card in Sorare that I have. So I'm going to be picking him because they've got Southampton at home. Really good fixture. Chance for him to maybe get an assist, maybe win lots of tackles, passes further forward. So let's see how Joe Linton does. That's my strongest lineup in 250. I've then put 2 lineups out, mainly as punts. Mainly to kind of just build up the XP of these cards. There's no way I can be relegated in the special leagues. So there's no pressure on these lineups. DMP goalkeepers, and then 4 cards that are just wild cards. This is going to be my Chelsea card lineup. Like, if all 4 cards do well, Cucurella, Madueke, and Jackson, if somehow they all do well against Man City, Jackson probably comes off the bench, scores a goal, he's captain. You know, this is a real punt team. And then Mason Mount, he did play the Community Shield, Mason Mount, because I think Manchester United don't have any strikers that are fit. So last week in the Community Shield, Bruno Fernandes plays as a false striker, and Mason Mount kind of played in the position that Bruno Fernandes usually plays. Maybe that happens again. Maybe Bruno Fernandes is a false number 9 and Mason Mount plays in midfield again. If that happens, again, it's a punt. That's why he's in this lineup. Also, I quite like how he looks with 5 Chelsea cards. I'm not going to lie. Aesthetically, I like how this lineup looks. 5 Chelsea cards. That's why they're all together. And then the other punt lineup is this lineup. Andy Robertson is in this lineup because he's a bit of a fitness doubt. He's a 50-50 if he plays. He's not fully fit. But I think if there's a chance that he's fit, Liverpool are going to want to play him. So that's why he's in this lineup. James Ward-Prowse is in this lineup because my gut is telling me he's not going to start for West Ham. But it's not a fully 100% thing. I do think Souček is going to start, which is why Souček is in my serious lineup, my serious Premier League lineup. So the gamble lineup, James Ward-Prowse is going in. And Kovacic is going in there as well because Rodri seems like he's not fully fit as well. So if Rodri's not fit, a bit like the Community Shield when Rodri didn't play, Kovacic should play. And then this boy, and the Necaxa forward that I have, Brian Samudio. I've never played him. I've never used this card. He's always just been a Necaxa card that I have because he helps with my Necaxa collection bonus. He's left Necaxa and gone to the Turkish League, a team I know nothing about. He now plays for these guys, Antalyaspor Kulübü, who are playing Besiktas away. I do know about Besiktas. Besiktas should be a tricky game away, but he didn't start last week, but they must have signed him because they see something in him. So he might be a useful card for me this year. He might get more game time. He wasn't getting any game time in the Necaxa. They've got a guy called Cambinando up front, who's better. But he was coming off the bench a lot for Necaxa. But, you know, he added some good scores. Obviously, this is against Santos in 88. So, you know, there was a lot of bad scores because he wasn't starting games. He was coming off the bench. But he's moved. Maybe a change of scenery. He's 27 years old. Still got a lot of years ahead of him. If he can, you know, he started off the bench last week. He played 26 minutes. Maybe he starts this week. Maybe he's now settling in. If he starts, that's why he's in the gamble lineup. But possibly one to watch out for this year. Brian Samudio. I did have even though I've not transfer listed him, I did have someone make me an offer on him like 2 days ago. Somebody made a bid on him from me. And that made me think, why are they making a bid on me? Ooh, maybe they know something I don't know. So I think maybe he has a good year in Turkey this year. Let's keep an eye on him. And my under 23 lineup is the last lineup that I'm putting out. Not very serious, this lineup, but all 5 guys are going to be playing. It's not like I'm putting out any DMP people in this lineup this week. The goalkeeper, I don't know if he's going to play the goalkeeper because he's coming back from the Olympics. He's not had preseason with Paris FC, but he didn't really play much at the Olympics. So it's not like he's tired. And he's Paris FC's #1 goalkeeper. So I'm hoping they just want to rush him back into the team and he plays. And then I'm putting Destiny Udogie in defense. Again, Spurs are away at Leicester. Could be a good fixture for them. Udogie has played in pre-season. An attacking left back. Didn't have the best season last year, Destiny Udogie. And I did buy him, and I was a little bit disappointed with him last year. I bought him for a little bit more money than... I probably could buy him now for half the price that I bought him for last year. But at the time, that was good value. When Sorare prices were a lot higher. So I'm really hoping for a big season from Destiny Udogie this year. He's a very attacking defender. He's still young. Still qualifies for the under 23 lineup. If Spurs have a good season, if he nails himself as a left back, could be big things from him. I'm going to put Enzo Fernandez in this team as well, because I'm not expecting Chelsea to do well against Manchester City. But if they do, Enzo Fernandez could be key to some good scores. Nežli, again, we never know if he's going to play or not. But if he does, hoping he gets some game. If he comes off the bench, hoping he does well. And then I'm going to captain Stukas, who's been doing really well lately for Genk. I don't know why I forgot the name Genk. He's been doing well so far. He had a 71 last game. So I'm hoping he can build on his 71 and put another good score out. And I'm going to captain him. He's the one that I think I'm most confident about out of all of these. So he's going to be my captain. So I'm not overly confident. This is probably the weakest team, the under 23, apart from my punt lineups in the capped league. So let's see what happens. The ones I'm most excited about are Challenger and West Ham and mixed Premier League lineup. So those are my lineups for the first game week 1 of a new Sorare season. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Good luck with your Sorare seasons that are coming ahead. Thanks for all your support with the channel so far. Keep it coming, and I'll see you next week. Peace.